leaving money on the table. And obviously no one wants to do that, but you have personal experience with that. A decade ago, you sold your shops and you feel like you left money on the table. So talk to me about how you feel that experience benefited you and got you to where you are today with Consolidation Coach, the leading consulting body shops on selling. Tell me how that's helped you.
When I sold my stores, I was 42 years old. I was not in a place mentally to sell. Really what happened was consolidation. Our market was the first market that consolidators decided that, hey, we're going to enter. My stores were in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And when that happened, we started having consolidators knocking on our door. And my mindset is like, this is not ever going to work. I had a really good friend of mine that was working for one of the consolidators that had sold, approached me and say, Laura, this is probably something you really should entertain. So I entertained it. I got an offer or offers. And then I said, you know what? I need to take some steps back, learn as much as I can about auto body consolidation, understand how these values are determined to make sure that if I am going to do this, that I don't leave any money on the table. It took 6 months. I got certified in mergers and acquisitions during that time period, learned as much as I could possibly learn about it at that time, and went to the table, negotiated significantly more than those offers that I had originally received, ultimately ended up selling the stores. But during the process, there was some, for lack of better words, nuances that were within the contract where I made some major mistakes and quite honestly cost me about $1 million. It is so easy to make mistakes, and not just on the business value, but just through all of the nuances. And there's just so many places for money to be left on the table. So consequently, what happened was post sale, I had a lot of friends in the industry. Just because I've been so well connected. I've been in the industry now 34 years. Yes, I'm telling on myself. And they just started calling me and saying, hey, Laura, what's this? What's that? And then it just, dawned on me, hey, I need to create a business that helps these independent shop owners that are just like me. There was no shame in my game. I'd be in the detail area washing cars on a Friday. If bumpers needed to be scuffed on a Thursday, I'd be out in the shop, scuffing bumpers. I mean, that wasn't my ideal scenario, but if it needed to happen, I would get in the mix and make it happen. And I think that what happens is when you are thinking of selling your shop, it's easy for an offer to get thrown in front of you. You're having a bad day. You say, gosh, what I could do with that, and really not look at it objectively. And I think it's important, if you think you're going to sell, you're at burnout, you're like, I'll just take anything. That's just not a good place to be. And you have to take some steps back. Understand the whole process, understand the value, what drives the value, and the seasonality of value, because the value right now in today's market versus a year ago versus what I think 2026 is going to look like is 3 different animals. And they vary so much that you have to really talk to somebody other than a CPA who's just busy focusing on tax returns and not really in the mix of knowing what the markets are doing and and that's another big thing, the buyers. What buyers are in your market? Somebody might be in your market and they're looking for a highly certified shop, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, Rivian, that type of thing. And your shop might not be ICAR Gold and may not have any certifications. Well, that buyer is not going to be interested in you. You know what I mean? And consequently, that's the only buyer in your market, then offers aren't going to be that great. And vice versa, if that same buyer is in your market and that's who you are, that's when, for lack of better words, the iron strikes. And that's when, I guess, timing is what it's all about. Selling your shop isn't always on your time. Case in point, me, I was 42 years old when I sold. Insane. You know what I mean? And I'm very grateful. I'm a firm believer God gives you what you need when you need it always. And it has definitely been the best decision that I've ever made in life, was selling then. I love helping shop owners not make any mistakes or leave money on the table.